Good day and welcome again to another great day of cooking in my home. Today I'll be doing sides. In sides I mean you've got your main course or something, and this is something that you can add to it or have just by itself, or what I call a side dish. And we're going to be doing old-fashioned cooked coleslaw, marinated mushrooms, congealed salad for all the different holidays ahead of us, and baked acorn squash, homemade applesauce, and several different things. I think you'll enjoy them. They're simple. You can do them for one or expand it for as many people that you might want to feed as you entertain, or for your own family. So first we're going to do coleslaw. So I took a heavy cabbage and I shredded it so that it's very fine, and I put it in my cabbage bowl. When I'm out scavenging around, I try to find things that complement different dishes, because I think not only the food is great, but how you present them sometimes is even more appetizing. So we're going to do that. Now the next thing we do, we take 2 beaten egg yolks and do that as I can here. And add that to the pan, and then we have 2 tablespoons of sugar out of this big old sugar barrel. I've had this about 30 years, and I don't know if I could cook without it, but it is a mainstay for flour and sugar in my home. And then the next thing we do, we use a teaspoon of butter. We're going to make it really rich. Add that to the pan also as we're moving right along here. A little bit of a teaspoon of dry mustard, and it's sometimes hard to find, but I was able to get some for the recipe. So we want it pretty even, but it didn't have to be exact on this particular recipe because of the way it's going to come out in the finished product. A little bit of black pepper, and again in my monster cans here, just a dash of that will be fine. And we'll use a teaspoon of celery salt, or celery seed I mean, not salt please. Never use salt. We'll add that right in. And then we're going to add a half a cup of vinegar. Wine vinegar is what I try to use. I think it has more flavor than the regular. And it's taking its time to get out here for us. We'll add that there. And we're going to put it on the stove. And then we add, when it's almost ready, a half a cup of half and half. So we'll get it on the stove and get it started. So we'll move on with something else here in a minute. And of course, get it stirred and right. The eggs give it the body of the recipe. The half and half gives it the flavor, and then all the other things just sort of add in. So I also have a individual cabbage bowl as I serve it to friends and family. So that's everything for the old-fashioned coleslaw, and I'll show you how to finish it in just one moment. Okay, our recipe is coming to a boil. We're going to add the half and half, which is the special part of it, and the eggs again are cooking like a custard and thickening the whole recipe here. And it's all ready to pour over the cabbage. Now you can serve this warm, which I do sometimes if I'm cooking a lamb or something like that as a side, or it will refrigerate it in the refrigerator and last indefinitely. So just pour it over your cabbage. And then I try to get it all the way through with my prongs here. and ready to serve, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, recipe number 2, and I know you'll enjoy this. This is old-fashioned homemade applesauce. This time of year, apples are coming in, and the best ones to cook with are Jonathan, McIntosh, and Winesap. These are Jonathan apples I use today, and I'll show you how I peel them so that you can get started. If you just start with your peeler and bring it around, never peel something like that, because that's what happens. Even when you do potatoes, because you waste a lot of the product itself. So if you just turn this in your hand and get it down where you want it, get all the peel off of it, just takes a moment. And this recipe is 6 small apples. You can use 4, or you can use whatever you like, but those 3 basic kinds are the best ones for baking or making applesauce or just in general cooking. Cut it in half with your knife. Cut it in quarters. Be sure that you cut the extra peel off. Be sure you get that center out of there and put it in your pan. And do the same thing with all 4 quarters of the apple. And when you do applesauce, you want to put about 1 inch of water in the bottom of the pan, because you want it to not scorch the apples or burn, but you want them not to be runny when you get finished with your product either. So you're going to add that. I add a little lemon juice to it just for the tartness of the whole recipe, and 1 whole cinnamon stick. So that is what gives you the flavor. The nice thing about homemade applesauce, there's no sugar added, you don't have any preservatives, additives, etc. And you can use applesauce so many ways. It's great to put in the middle of a acorn squash, use it on your pancakes. I even do peanut butter and applesauce. It's great, again, a side with pork or something else, or ham that you might be cooking for your family. This is the finished product, so you can see how really luscious it is. Again, it has no salt, no sugar or anything. The cinnamon stick is buried down here, but it's adding flavor as it goes. I try to take it out after 24 hours, because sometimes it gets a little too much of that. So we'll put about, like I say, 1 inch of water into it. And the other thing you must have is a tight lid on top, because if you don't, the steam comes out, your apples will be dry and they could burn. So that's the way you do homemade applesauce. Enjoy it, and kids love it. Okay, recipe number 3, and this indeed is a double side. This recipe is marinated mushrooms, and it's wonderful as an appetizer if you're having a cocktail party or just a party in general. The other good thing about it, as you make this, the sauce that you marinate the mushrooms in is so delicious that you can pour it over lettuce, as I've done this on my mushroom plate here. Again, I like to get containers that complement the food that I'm serving, and so it's a great salad. So 2 for 1, and that's what we like to do. So you take your mushrooms and you bring them to a boil in salted water with 2 tablespoons of vinegar. That opens the pores, and because of the time constraints right now, I haven't done it totally right, but I want you to do it right, and that is when these are finished boiling, rolling to a good boil, don't overcook them, pour the water out, and immediately pour the sauce over the top, so all the great flavors penetrate the mushroom skin, and you have that extra flavor as your appetizer or your salad. So the next step is I've mashed 4 egg yolks in here, a small onion, and a dash of salt. About a teaspoon would be sufficient. And a dash of oregano. And I'm always generous with oregano. That's one of my favorite seasonings to use. A little bit of lemon juice. And then white wine, 1/2 cup. And a 1/4 cup of olive oil. As they say, good to the last drop. And that was the last drop of that olive oil. Now, if you want for color, when I do it as a salad, I add some cut up pimento in it to give a little extra color to the dish. But this is great mixed together, and when I try to do it warm, like I say, it is much better than this. So then you take your mix, pour it over your mushrooms again, as I repeat myself, that you're doing it when they're still very, very hot. Stir all this together, and you want this to set in the refrigerator overnight, or at least 8 hours. You want the skin of the mushroom to develop and absorb all that wonderful flavor. So the next day, as you're preparing your meal, you can take a few mushrooms, put them on the salad, or again with toothpicks, use them as an appetizer. So that's a mushroom salad on a mushroom plate. I'm giving you another great side for this time of year especially. When I was growing up, we had these quite often in the winter because the oven would be on, and when we did that, we did maybe scalloped potatoes, meatloaf, something like that in the oven, so that we're not overheating the house, but making it right. So this is acorn squash, and there are 3 basic ways to do it. Number 1 is the easiest way, and the way I've been doing it most of my life. You take the acorn squash, and this is the finished product. You take out the seeds and all the core of your squash, and of course just toss them away. And then you want to take a dish to accommodate 1/2 or several, depending on how much. You must have about 1 inch of water in the bottom of the bowl or pan that you're cooking them in. So then you would add 1 pat of butter, 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of water, and cook it around 400 degrees for about 1 hour. When you're finished, you take a fork and pull all the meat into the flavor itself and let it stand a little while it's still warm, and all that flavor is there for you to eat. Now, for those of you, and I'm doing this especially for those who have trouble with eating too much sugar, I do the same thing using fresh honey, and I add to that either raisins, diced apple, or dried cranberries, your favorite nuts, or last but not least, if you want it as more of a full course, you could use Italian medium sausage or breakfast sausage. Again, bake at 400 for about 1 hour. You can test it by using your fork, and if you can pull the meat away from the side, you know this is done and ready to eat. I try to serve it warm, although because I love them so much, I have been sneaking in the kitchen a few times and eating one cold. Another great side this time of year, and also it's a great dish to serve at Thanksgiving. This is indeed a Florida side dish. We're using California avocados, unfortunately, because the smaller avocado are from California. The large avocados that we see in our backyard, of course, are Florida grown. I prefer these for this particular recipe only because of the size of it is perfect for a side dish, an appetizer, or to serve with your main meal. Now, what you do first, of course, is cut your avocado in half, take out the seed, and I spread a little bit of the sour cream and mayonnaise on the edge here. And you can fill this 3 different ways. Occasionally, when you find what they call salad shrimp, they're very little teeny shrimp and they're great for the recipe. I've also used a regular shrimp and cut pieces of it up. You can use crab meat in this recipe or the imitation crab. So you have 4 choices depending on what's available to you, what you can afford for that day, and of course what you and your family enjoy. So you take the avocado, this is with the imitation seafood, and this is 1 tablespoon of sour cream, 1 tablespoon of mayonnaise, a little bit of lemon juice, and if you want, depending on, again, the flavor for your home, you can sprinkle avocado, oregano on top. You can add a little bit of dill weed, or and I always add sharp cheddar cheese sprinkled on top. So you fill the cavity. You bake this only until the cheese is melted, because you don't want to overdo it. But the avocado is really unusual when you bake it, because so many people have said, I've never had a baked avocado before. So I made this recipe up many, many years. Here's the finished product, and I added a whole shrimp to the top to make it visually appetizing, and I always sprinkle cheddar cheese on the very top of that for that extra flavor. Now I'm giving you another side dish that is one of my family's favorites, and I've used so many times I can't even count the times. This is a congealed salad with, Jello. Lime, of course, is what I use in this recipe. Now the recipe, and I'll tell you how to do it in just a moment, is great for St. Patrick's Day because it's green. It's great for Christmas because it's green. And then I always add a cherry on top of each serving so that it has that red and green put together. But as a side, because of the ingredients, it's very tasty, and it's great, again, if you're cooking lamb or pork or ham and you want something to do, or if you're having just friends over. The salad itself is delicious, and the reason it's just different and delicious is because the backbone of the taste is horseradish, believe it or not. So I will tell you, it takes the smaller size Jello here, and you do your Jello exactly as you would regularly on the package instructions. But the difference is, when you use crushed pineapple in this recipe, I use all the juice out of the can of pineapple so that you're getting that extra flavor when you're putting your Jello together. So add the juice of the pineapple to the water, to the right ingredients that is called for here on your package. So you use a half a cup of water with your Jello recipe, and most of that will be your pineapple juice. So you cook it like regular Jello. I always take Crisco or spray and take the pan all the way around so it doesn't stick to the pan as I'm doing it. And of course, again, your 1 package of lime Jello. You use to this 1 cup of mayonnaise, 1 cup of cottage cheese, and 2 or more teaspoons of horseradish. So I add a little bit more because I like a little bit more bite to it, but 2 teaspoons is fine. You stir this all together, and again, follow your recipe on your package here so you don't make a mistake. And when you put it in the refrigerator, it sets up nicely and covered. This can keep in the refrigerator for at least a week, so you can use it often. I served it on a bed of lettuce, so you can enjoy it. And again, if it's holiday time, the red cherry just gives it a special view for that bon appetit moment. Last but not least, this is something you can do in a hurry, in your home. You can do it for 1 or 2, or depending how many. I did the small can of pears that are already prepared for you. Be sure that you drain them very, very thoroughly, and be sure the pear itself is almost dry when you put it on your bed of lettuce. The reason is that you don't want them running all over the plate and making a big mess. To that, you add a heaping tablespoon of cottage cheese in the center. And I'm being very generous. And I add sharp cheddar cheese to give that extra flavor to it. I like the sharp on this one because it adds that extra flavor, as I mentioned, to the overall thing. Now, last but not least, I use either English walnuts, pecans, or almonds, and either chop them up or put them whole on top so that you're getting a complete nutrient type of thing. Again, no sugar, no salt, easy, easy, easy to do, tastes great, and what I try to do is be sure that the pears are cold in the refrigerator before I start the recipe so that they're nice and cool. And it's a great thing in our heat here in Florida if you want something just as another side to all your great meals. Thank you for your time.